What's going on, everybody? If you're seeing this page, that means the official Torn Your Reign Reloaded merch store is now available. To get access to the store, make sure you go ahead and click the store tab on my YouTube channel. From there, you will be able to see all the merch that is available. We have mugs, shirts, hoodies, joggers, and so much more to come. All original designs made by yours truly, Torn Your Reign Reloaded. Now go ahead and get your merch today, and you can feel nothing in style.
Out of Spartanburg County, a woman now facing charges after being accused of following a newspaper delivery driver and holding her at gunpoint. Take a look at your screen. This is the suspect, Mary Holmes, according to authorities. Deputies say the victim was trying to deliver newspapers near the town of Rock Springs neighborhood when she noticed Holmes staring at her. The victim says Holmes followed her to the next neighborhood and pulled out a gun, but the magazine fell out. The victim was able to get away, and deputies also say Holmes' boyfriend called 911. They later met up with Holmes, who told them she was terrified because she didn't recognize the car. She says someone recently broke into her neighbor's home, so she was scared it would happen to her. Holmes is now charged with pointing and presenting.
So y'all just heard that audio right there from this news clip, and let me just say right here that they say that this woman is 32 years of age. That is a very hard struggling, haggardly looking 32. She doesn't even look human, and her actions pretty much present herself as not being human also at the same time. But let me go ahead and also add to this story, because the clip y'all just heard was less than a minute long, and of course there's definitely more to it. So I'm going to be reading this article from News One that was posted on September 13, 2023. It says, listen, we joke a lot about Karens. When it comes to the subject of white people and their abject inability to stop minding black people's business, the humor nearly writes itself. But there's a reason these stories are important to report. However, we choose to report and post about them because these individuals are dangerous. When taken to an extreme, the racist and invasive actions of white women and their dilbert male counterparts, which involve in deciding a black person or persons don't belong in a certain area and policing them accordingly, put black people in danger. They potentially put us in life-threatening danger when they call 911 on us simply for existing while black, and even more so that when they arm themselves to take non-existent matters into their own hands. That's how Ahmaud Arbery ended up murdered. It's why Trayvon Martin is dead. It's why FedEx worker DeMontario Gibson was shot at by white men while trying his best to mind his business that literally pays him. Speaking of Gibson, a similar case to his has come out of Spartanburg County, South Carolina, where a white woman was taken into custody by the Spartanburg County Sheriff's Office last week after she followed a black newspaper delivery worker and held her at gunpoint. According to deputies, when they arrived at the scene, the victim told them she was delivering newspapers around the town of Rock Springs neighborhood when she noticed a driver, later identified as Mary Holmes, staring at her. The victim reported that she continued to deliver newspapers and eventually left the neighborhood, where Holmes pulled up next to her. The victim told deputies that she asked Holmes if she could help her, and the driver responded, "No, you can't." The victim told deputies that Holmes continued to follow her into the next neighborhood she went in, so she turned around where Holmes confronted her and pulled out a gun, but the magazine fell out of it. And she's very lucky that was the case, because if that magazine didn't fall out, that black woman probably would be out of here. The victim says she then left the area and contacted law enforcement. Deputies stated that as they were talking with the victim, Holmes' boyfriend called 911 and reported that she had been following someone she believed was stalking the neighborhood. Deputies met with Holmes, and she stated that she was terrified after seeing a vehicle driving through her neighborhood, but that she didn't belong there. She added that someone had broken into a neighbor's home a month ago, so she was scared it would happen to her. Holmes says she pulled out the gun in fear of her life, like they all say, but admitted she was in the wrong for continuing to follow the vehicle. So just to recap, Holmes was quote-unquote terrified that a black woman who was delivering newspapers was actually stalking the neighborhood, so she decided to grab a gun and follow the delivery person around from neighborhood to neighborhood, which means the extreme white woman went very far out of her way to put herself in a position to quote-unquote fear for her life. I swear the logic that they have when they try to say that they fear for their life is one of the weirdest ones I've ever heard of in my life. And I've done so many of these videos when they talk about they fear for their life, but it's like, if you are in fear for your life, why are you going towards what you deem to be imminent danger? Why would you continue to put yourself in fear? If you think that something is in fear of your life, then maybe it would be best not to pursue that person and call the authorities. But no, they only do that, and they do this thing because they want to go and mess with a black person that day, and they only use that fear for their life thing is just in case something goes wrong, and it takes the effect off of them. So basically they can try to get away scot-free. Ever since Zimmerman did what he did to Trayvon Martin, they've been all trying to do that fear for my life thing ever since. Because I'm gonna be honest, I didn't know what stand your ground was or the fear for my life thing was until Zimmerman. We are 11 years removed from that situation. It's crazy how fast time flies, and they still pull that card to this day. And this is, and I'm just spitballing here, maybe she's just another violent racist who knows white women's tears are perfect for hiding the fact that white women in these situations are the only true danger. It's also interesting how these incidents always conveniently include a prior burglary or string of burglaries that supposedly justify black people being racially profiled and policed. It's as if every predominantly white area suddenly becomes the neighborhood in Home Alone once a black person waltzes into it. Holmes would have us believe she went full George Zimmerman minus the racist killing for which Trayvon received no justice, because a single neighborhood allegedly had their car broken into. But she was also quote unquote terrified once the person she was stalking confronted her, and then suddenly she became an American citizen with the God-given right to bear arms and protect herself. Against the non-assailant, she traveled miles away from her home to stalk. So yeah, we might joke about quote unquote Karen, but what they do is far from a joke. Now that's one article right there that came out of News One. But one thing I also wanted to add into it, and which is why I have deemed this story of, I guess you can say, Operation Protect the White Woman, is because apparently this woman, according to this article from The Messenger, she ended up getting a $5,000 bond. I believe she ended up getting a $5,000 bond. On the article, it literally states that, one, this was not self-defense. They said police at the scene found that Holmes' decision to point the gun at the woman was not in self-defense, and she was arrested and charged with one count of pointing and presenting firearms at a person. And then she was released on a $5,000 bond and was ordered to not contact the driver. First off, a $5,000 bond, which means at 10% she was only paying $500. That was probably nothing to her. And they just said she was ordered not to contact the driver. But the thing is, what if that driver, of course, is, making delivery packages in that area? That means she's always going to be there. That's not enough. This woman should, in my opinion, when you do something like this, you should definitely be locked up. And she was only charged with one count of pointing and presenting firearms, not attempted murder. Because what did they think she was going to do with that gun? Just show it, just like say, hey, look, I have a gun. No, she pointed that gun at this delivery driver with the intent to shoot her. But the magazine fell out, and that's why she couldn't do it. That's why I said earlier, if the magazine had stayed in, she would have pulled that trigger with no hesitation. So again, she's getting protected on the basis of she's not being heavily undercharged. She got a $5,000 bond that she's been released on, and she was severely undercharged. But hey, like I said, this is Operation Protect remember I said Operation Protect the White Boy, but this is the white woman edition. Oh yes, it's a lot of women that fit into that category that get protected as well. I mean, we're not new to this. But yeah, that $5,000 bond, trash. Her getting heavily undercharged is even more trash. Like I said, if that magazine stayed in, that black woman probably would be dead that day. And speaking of the magazine, keep in mind, when the magazine fell out, she tried to pick the magazine up and put it back into the gun to make sure that it didn't slip out a second time. So when you put all of that together and you see where she only got that little measly charge of just merely pointing the gun at her in possession, that's some BS. But we're not surprised. Why? Because again, This is what? Operation Protect the White Woman. In this case, we always talk about the Operation Protect the White Boy, but definitely in this case, Operation Protect the White Woman. And she should also get hit with a hate crime charge because she told this black woman, you don't belong here. We know what that means. We know what that translates into. That's nothing but her ancestors speaking right through her raggedy veins, through her raggedy DNA. That is nothing new. Who do you think she learned this from? And if this doesn't make it interesting about her, thanks to one of my subscribers, Tawana Cook, y'all heard me mention her before on the channel. She posted something in the Discord that I was not aware of about this woman until I went and did some more research on this individual, and you can actually see it right here on your screen. And I'm going to read to you the entire thing right now. You can only see like a little glimpse of it right here. It says Mary Elizabeth Holmes criminal history. Now this was back in 2011 from what you can see on here. So she was 20 when this occurred. Holmes was previously arrested for a violent 2011 strong-arm robbery, according to the sheriff's office records. At 2:26 a.m., she pushed her way into a Spartanburg apartment and proceeded to attack two people inside, according to an incident report. Police say she grabbed the man in the apartment by his hair, slung him around, and pulled him out the door, twisting his back after he had shattered his vertebrae earlier that year. While he was on the ground, Holmes stole cash from his wallet and his cell phone, the report says. She received 30 days probation and a fine for pleading guilty to assault and battery, third degree, court records show. And then there's some more additional information there, such as her pushing her way into this apartment complex and then flipping this woman out of a hammock. And then after she was done dealing with the guy, she went back into the spot and attacked the woman again before eventually robbing them of the money and other items as well. So this woman has a violent history, as y'all can see right here, dating back years. That is her at that time doing this. Everything matches up because it's the same name, Mary Elizabeth Holmes. The dates match up with the age. She would have been 20 at that time because she's 32 now. And it happened in the same state, in South Carolina. So yeah, we're not surprised. This woman is a thugstress. They always like to say that, you know, throw the label of thug onto black people. But I think this woman has more than earned that title based on her current history and her past history.